Hello, sweet soul. I'm Vidette Mayer. I'm here inviting you into my peaceful world here in Northern California. This is one of my favorite spots, a place where my husband Bud and I bring our dogs to just have a little peace, to find some peace. We're usually the only ones here, and it's a great place for us to just get connected, to appreciate life, to expand our hearts, to expand our minds. And that is the world that I am creating. And I know that there are plenty of people out there, maybe you, that are drawn to that kind of consciousness. We are in a massive planetary evolution right now. We are experiencing a massive pole shift in many different ways, but the one that I'm here to speak with you about is a pole shift in consciousness. Moving away from the physical aspects of only sensing and being aware of our physical world and tuning into a much more infinite and expansive and loving world in consciousness. And when we tune into that consciousness, into that world, in our own spaces, we create that and project that into the outer world. These are the new spiritual leaders of a new world that is coming into existence. And these new leaders, these spiritual leaders, I'm inviting you to expand your mind and your consciousness on what that means. The old world has led us to believe that spiritual leaders are gurus, ministers, priests, rabbis, those who are called to be mediums between the physical world and the conscious world of Source, God, Universe, Spirit. However, the true nature of who we are spiritual leaders, spiritual beings. And many of us now are being called into action to become the spiritual leaders of a new world. And these are everyday people like you and like me who are waking up, who are awakening to the consciousness of more meaning and purpose and being of service to a world greatly in need of peace. And for those who are on the healing journey and on the journey to find peace in their world that then expresses in the outer world, those are the next generation of spiritual leaders. I'm here to present to you a different idea of spiritual leadership and invite you to a community that is all about nurturing that spiritual nature of who you are, that is here to encourage you to become your true self, to make that whole pole shift in consciousness to where you are a leader. You are here for a reason. You are here for a purpose during this massive transitionary time that only comes around every 26,000 years. And you are here during that time. So let me get into some of the qualities, aspects, and archetypes of spiritual leadership. And as I run through the short presentation of what that means, I'd like for you to tune into your own self and see if you are called to be just that. Because if you are my people, and we are assembling people like yourself in a beautiful community that you will have access to at the end of this video. I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to meeting you. And if you're like me, I look forward to creating a better world for all of humanity. Thanks for being here. Let's get into the spiritual aspects of you. Welcome back, sweet soul. I am now in my own little mobile studio, and this is the place where my creativity comes to life, whether it be writing, whether it be bringing through new messages for my channels, whether it be crocheting, painting, cooking, all of the things that creatively hit my spirit so that I am fulfilled and sustained in the higher power sources of love and creativity, creation, peace are all created here, as well as wherever this form, this body that you see, this multidimensional being that I call Vidette, this is me, Vidette Mayer, I am the creative studio, and I wanted to bring you into a physical studio with me so that I can present to you a little bit further of an introduction to yourself. We are pioneering, folks, into a global shift in consciousness. We are moving into realms of existence in human form that we have never been had access to, had availability to. And that world is now here. It is being created now. And it is being created by the very people who have held this vision of a world that works for everyone, a vision and an intention to continually be on the healing process so that we clear our own deceptions, our own manipulations, our own emotional and mental mistruths, so that we can get aligned with the spiritual nature of who we are. And those who have taken on this role, this consciousness in this physical vessel, are the ones being asked to step up and govern and lead this new world, while the old world continues to purge the manipulation, the deception, and the destruction of all systems and all energies and all mental thought patterns that are no longer in service to all of humanity. That world is now coming down. It's coming offline, and a new world is already online. It has already been created. We are now bringing it into more and more of a visual for everyone to see and everyone to know that they are safe, that they are empowered, that they are sustained by something much higher than the old systems. Because, quite frankly, between you and me, that old system was far below my own expectation. I have much higher expectations for my life, for humanity's life, how we are treated, what we have access to. All of it has much higher expectations, and I have held nothing but the highest expectation of life experience, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, for myself, as well as all of humanity. I am a spiritual leader, and I speak to you, sweet soul, the spiritual leader within you. Maybe he or she is not on the surface yet, but what resonates in this presentation, when I go through the qualities, the values, the archetypes of a spiritual leader, if it resonates with you, I am speaking to that part of you who resonates with it, who understands it, who is calling you to step up into your power now so that you can be fully sustained by a system and a world that is not about fear and struggle and division. It is about love and ease, effortlessness, grace, and abundance for all. And if you are ready to be part of the leaders who bring that world into existence, listen up. Let's first start about what is spiritual leadership. We can all name the big names of both modern day and ancient spiritual leaders and mystics. We know them. But what about the ones that live amongst us now? We know in a higher consciousness, there aren't just a handful of spiritual leaders and mystics in a certain time. All of humanity is a spiritual leader and mystic. They operate in a different form. They operate in a different way. They operate in a different system. And yet, when we turn on that system, we see that every single soul is here to be a spiritual leader. These are regular, everyday people like you and like me, the ones that live to attain the same qualities of the leaders that we know, of the mystics that we know. But we do this in order to live a life of peace. We just have a high regard and a high respect for life, and we want to live it in peace, and we set the expectation to do so. And we are willing to pioneer into new land, to stand up for what is our sovereign right, to live in an abundant and peaceful world. And those who are willing to stand up and have the courage to boldly say, I deserve that. I am that. We are the ones that hold the spiritual leadership and the qualities of the highest mystics and the highest ancient leaders, spiritual leaders, than we have ever known. We are them, and we are here now to be that in the world. Spiritual leadership is defined as a form of leadership that is driven by a deep sense of purpose, meaning, and connection with all of life. It is a holistic approach to guiding and influencing others that integrates personal values, beliefs, and ethics into decision making and action. As our world becomes increasingly complex and interconnected, the need for leaders who possess a strong sense of spirituality and inner wisdom becomes more apparent. This was put together by OpenAI GPT. I personally do not use AI for this. I saw this description, this definition of spiritual leadership on another presentation, which I'll refer to in the end. And this was the definition you used. And for AI to come up with that, even artificial intelligence recognizes that spiritual leadership comes from within. It is a holistic approach to guiding and influencing others that integrates personal values, beliefs, and ethics. Ethical leadership is what we are calling forward here in this new world. Can you agree with me that the old world was governed and run by those who have no ethics, who have no belief but for their own profit? This is a different pole shift. Remember, this is a pole shift of advanced thinking, of advanced intelligence. It's from the spiritual intelligence, because the spiritual intelligence is what feeds the mental, emotional, and physical intelligence of the being. And when we are holistically integrated in the decision making and action of ourselves, and we do that ethically and integrates our personal values and beliefs that we are sovereign beings who have a right to peace and love and abundance, we create that world. We influence that world. We become the higher expression of influencers in that world. Isn't that going to be nice when that is the majority of influencers, rather than the ones that we have now that are just devaluing and defiling what the human spiritual experience really is? So here are some qualities of an inherent spiritual leader. They are naturally inspirational and encouraging to others. They are those people that walk into the room and people kind of want to just be with them. They gravitate to them because they hold an inspiring and encouraging energy. They know themselves. By courageously going where most are afraid to go, you find yourself. You go within, right? When people are willing to look at their own mental and emotional darkness, they're ready to face it. They're ready to face and look at the challenges that they have, so that they can create a better world, create more of a healthier, holistic foundation in a world that has been created by themselves, that is challenging. That takes some courage. And when you start there, you have to go within and look within, and you get to know yourself. And those who know themselves are automatically inspirational and encouraging to others, because most humans don't even know themselves. They operate in fight or flight. They operate in just a closed down state. They don't know who they are and don't realize that they are the ones creating their own world. They don't realize their power, so they put power outside of themselves. When you know yourself from within, your power comes from within, and that is attractive to people. They exude humility, empathy, and compassion. You know why? Because they've been in the darkness. And when you're in the darkness, or you go in there, there is a humility that has to be found to say, wow, I've put myself here. I've chosen all of these choices that have led to this pathway that has led me into the truths of my mental mind. that have put me into anxiety and depression and stress, anything of those kinds of vibrational emotions, of the lower kind, of the denser kind, of the darker kind, are simply there for you to get to know yourself. Because when you get to know yourself, you realize that those emotions are not the true nature of who you are. They're not the true expression, and they're just showing you that there's something in your world that you have chosen that is not of the reflection that is you. That is not the expression of who you are. It's not a relationship that reflects you. It's not the job that reflects you. It's not the religious organization that is your reflection or highest expression. And when you give those things up and let them go because they don't resonate with you anymore, that is hard work. We recognize that. Leaders recognize the hard work really comes from letting go of the things that make you stressed, that make you overwhelmed, that make you decide to keep being depressed in a lower vibration. And when you come out of that, you've got humility. You have been humbled. You have empathy and compassion for others who are being humbled by life. They are devoutly connected to Source. Spiritual leaders are naturally and devoutly connected to Source and the deeper meaning and purpose of life as a whole. Life is not just the five senses that you see, touch, feel, smell, and hear. These are having a deeper meaning is that you feel at peace, you feel love for life, you feel the courage and the willingness to improve and humble yourselves to the areas that are not deeply connected to Source, because they're connected to a darker world that makes you feel overwhelmed in some way. And when you let go of that piece of that darker world, whether it be a relationship, whether it be a world, you then ascend up into a lighter expression of that world that you are living in. You become a leader of light because you have lightened your load, so to speak, and brought your frequency up to a higher, more expansive state. You know, the deeper meaning of challenges of life is about overcoming those challenges and obstacles and continuing to strengthen your connection to Source. You hold a consciousness of love and peace for all. You believe that that is our divine right as a whole for all of humanity. You bravely stand for what you believe in. This is a scary thing to do sometimes in a world that judges others for having a voice, for having a perspective, for having an opinion. And you share that opinion when it's asked for. You share that perspective in a way that bravely shows what you stand for, but has compassion, empathy, and humility for others with different perspectives. Excuse me, I just need to put my do not disturb on. You lead by example of holding a higher consciousness of thought and action. You don't get pulled into the darker world of division, of judgment, of fear. You lead by example by transcending those thoughts, those mental misconstructions of perception, and you go to the higher construction of perception, which means you take any challenges, take a look at them, sink into them, say, how was this created? What is this? What is this teaching me? And you ascend up to, got it. I understand that lesson. Now I'm transcending the problem and the challenge, and I'm intending on creating a healthier, more holistic, aligned, peaceful version of that aspect of my life. You show people the way by leading by example. Oops. You also focus on others and generosity, and with a caveat here that you put you first. If you are in the most healthiest, highest vibration, you can then turn and be a transponder of that healthy and holistic way of being by sharing it with others. You operate in service to the higher good rather than service to self. When you look at, when you are being selfish, it's looking in and being in service to yourself, to raise yourself into a higher consciousness, to then be able to share that consciousness with others. What are the behaviors of inherent spiritual leaders? Is any of this speaking to you? Because if you're doing any of this, you are being called. This invitation is for you, and I'm asking you to just stay with me. You offer your attention when someone is in need of support. People call these empaths. But you know what an empath is? It's someone who just notices and has awareness, natural awareness, when someone is in need and they say, "Can I help you?" You offer. When asked, you offer stories of experience to show that you can empathize, have compassion for, and understand the growth that someone's going through. Because you model the way, you have an experience of almost anything most individuals will ever go through, so that you can say, "I've been there." And if you haven't been, you don't tell them you have. You just simply say, I have felt the same thing you're feeling." And then you are a compassionate and generous giver of your attention. You regularly utilize the spiritual tools of meditation, prayer, and compassionate ritual for their own good and expansion, for your own good and expansion. You take time to nurture the connection with source that we talked about. You value that. You make time to do some work, to come together and build the relationship, for some relationship building with your source, God, universe, spirit, Gus, as I call it. And these spiritual tools of meditation, prayer, and compassionate ritual, which simply means maybe you go for a hike every day, you go for a walk, you sit and you crochet, you step into the studio that is you, the creative that you are, and however you are called to best sit in silence and commune with what you are grateful for, with the creator, with the energy that you are. You then are a regular spiritual leader modeling the way. You follow your own curiosity to expand consciousness, explore new ways of being in this world, and grow into a higher and higher version of yourself every single day. If you are one that believes that I am not going to go to bed tonight unless I am just a little bit better than I was, and what I mean by better is I'm a little bit more expanded, my heart's a little bit more open, I'm a little, maybe you're going to bed exhausted because you have done the work that spiritual leaders do to go within and face whatever it is that's bringing you anxiety or sadness or depression of some sort. You take your own work into your own hands. You are unafraid of change. You are unafraid to change. In fact, you expect yourself to change because you're not going to go to bed tonight the same way you woke up this morning, because you want to change. You want to be a more elevated person. You are leading the way into a higher elevation of consciousness that happens every moment of every day. So if you are devoutly connected to source, source is always calling you to rise up in your intelligence, whole intelligence. That requires you to change. And as you do that, yes, your physical life will change, but it's simply the reflection of your growth. So that just means change means, as a spiritual leader, if I grow, my physical world grows too. And as does my mental world and emotional world. A leader knows change and embraces it because they know they're only going to get better, which means they're only going to think better, they're only going to feel better, and they're only going to express a better and better world in physical form. It just makes sense. And when you are this in the world, when you are being that spiritual leader in the world influence of spiritual leaders starts to spread of you. You think of you as one transformer of source power, of source energy. You are a unique expression of you. You were made in the image and likeness of God, universe, spirit. Therefore, if you are that, then you start to influence every aspect of your world. Do you think if God sat down next to me, which it doesn't need to because it's already sitting here with me, but if Gus sat down, don't you think it would, like, some flowers would perk up, some, green grass would want to start growing, things would start to bloom, beings of little creatures would want to come sit on you. Bugs will land on you, right? Dogs will come to you. You are attractive energy. People will start to just come and sit and be like, what are you about? You're pretty interesting, because you just hold an energy. You influence your space as a being of light, as a spiritual leader, as a unique expression of God. You start to influence your family, you influence your friends, right? People start to gravitate to you. And this is a spiritual leader too. Sometimes you'll notice that as you grow, you may grow as you lead and lead and lead. Your friends will change, because some friends will drop out because they're just not in resonance with you anymore. Maybe they don't grow as rapidly, maybe they grow in a different way. It's okay, but your friends will change. They will change. You start to influence your coworkers and colleagues. You become that person that people come to and say, can you help me? Or can I just tell you my problems? And as a spiritual leader, you know how to facilitate that, so you don't take and have your problems dumped on you. You know how to facilitate and hold boundaries so that you can be a spiritual listener, not necessarily a receiver of other people's lower energy. You start to influence your social media connections. You become an influencer of a different kind, an underground kind, a grassroots influencer that comes up from the quiet realms of social media to inspire and to encourage, right? Not to judge and divide like majority of social media is designed to do. You start to make an influence in your neighborhood. You start to make um, changes and influence in your organizations, places that you're involved in. You become that go-to person, again, that go-to person that can speak the truth and hold boundaries and say, that is not for me, however, I would love to offer my perspective. Or, yes, I would love to lead that organization. You become an influencer of consciousness. The more your spiritual consciousness grows and expands, your consciousness is the kind of like the average that you come out of when you look at your spiritual intelligence, how connected to your source you are, your mental intelligence, the beliefs, the programming that you hold, your subconscious programming, your emotional intelligence, how do you respond to life. Leaders respond. Those growing into leadership are still reacting and dividing and judging and throwing out projections of fear. Leaders project out of love. So when you start to create and you start to lead and influence from that level of intelligence, of consciousness, that then transcends you physically, and it goes into the energetics, the grid, the energetic grid of the planet. Therefore, your consciousness affects your city, your state, your country, and then it plugs into the energetic grid of the consciousness of the planet, of our world. Spiritual leadership is a global leadership role. Your mission, you are being called to be a spiritual leader of our global community. Daily principles. Do you do any of these? Does any of these resonate? Are you willing to step into these daily principles? You know thyself. You know that you are the unique expression of Gus, your I am presence. Your I am presence is connected to the I am presence of every man, woman, child, being of earth, as well as Mother Earth herself. Therefore, you are connected in to the global consciousness, the web of global consciousness. That is how you influence global consciousness, because you know thyself. You know your power. You bring higher consciousness to thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. You don't do anything unless it's good for the good of all. If you think something and you're like, ooh, this is in my benefit, but you go and do something else, then this isn't for you. But if you think something and say, how does that affect those around me? Is it good for all? Yes. It feels good. It feels like peace. It feels like love to have to go do this activity. I have the words and the action to back up and lead myself into a higher expression of myself, therefore my world. You bring a higher consciousness all the time. You try to do the right thing and you try to do the truthful thing. It's not always the easiest thing to choose. You understand that change is constant and you embrace it. We've already talked about that. You're a changing being. There is not everything is changing. Nothing is nothing is still. Everything is always evolving. Therefore, with that consciousness, you know that you're always evolving into something healthier, a happier, more expansive, a more expansive expression. So you just go with the change because you embrace it and you love it, and you're good with the process of it now. You understand it. You operate in the virtuous, healthy realm of emotional intelligence during change and avoid extremes and imbalance. So this is where the old world has taught us, drama, right? Drama is freaking out when you're stressed out. It's, being all over the place when you're feeling grateful and, receiving, and you're kind of all over the place. Being in the virtuous realm of emotional intelligence means whether there's something challenging happening or something crazy, like expansive happening, you stay in that virtuous realm, grounded in the joy, grounded maybe in the poo puddle of challenge, because it's change that's happening, and change can be uncomfortable for a minute, but it's just for a minute in time. And when you stay in a higher consciousness, change just simply happens around you, and you don't have to be in it and rolling around in it and rolling around in the challenges and the feelings that come from that. You stay grounded in that holistic and healthy space of peace, whether your arena, whether your world is in chaos or it is in rapid expansion, you are grounded in peace at all times. You understand the wholeness of intelligence is not. So this is where we've gone off the truth of the path of truth in leadership, in the old world. Leadership has been sold as, you have to have a piece of paper that says you've got so many degrees, you have to have qualifications, you have to have requirements, all of the things. You know what the requirement is to be a spiritual leader? That you have the wholeness of intelligence, that you have the spiritual connectedness of intelligence. Your supernal channel is open and always connected to a higher source of infinite knowledge and wisdom. And when you need the required wisdom to move ahead in your evolution, it is there. And mentally, when you pull that information, that data, that cosmic energy, that universal data, your mind is open and expressed enough that it pulls in this new data without the old filters of the old world saying, that's not right, we never did that, no one knows about that, who am I to bring that in? All of that has been clear because you are a whole intelligent being, and your mental capacities are open and receptive to expanding to new knowledge, new data of who you are. And when that mental picture starts to move in, it moves down into your heart, and you feel your heart expand or not. The intelligence of emotional intelligence is about recognizing the feeling, which is the energetics that pulse that thought into reality. So it is the ignition, When something comes in, new data from your intuition, your supernal channel, it hits your pineal gland. It goes into your brain and your mind, and your mind says, we accept new knowledge. We accept, although it feels a little uncomfortable, somehow it feels right. So you are in intelligent alignment with spiritual and mental you. And then that then creates the physical world in which you live in, of health and balance. You understand how all of that works, and you keep yourself healthy spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. You live in profound peace even amongst transformational change, which again can be a little bit messy, but profound peace is the ground where spiritual leaders are rooted into. And lastly, you live by the law of karma. As you give, so shall you receive. The energy you put out into the world is the energy that will sustain you and come back. Therefore, if you are love, if you are abundant, if you are generous, if you are compassionate, if you are empathetic, you are a spiritual leader, and you have to know you will receive from the storehouse of good when you are that in this world. Spiritual leaders are always sustained in all ways. Hear that, sweet soul, hear that. Here's how you practice spiritual awareness, self-awareness. And this is inspired by a talk that the Dalai Lama did. First of all, self-awareness. The spiritual part of you leads to self-mastery and higher consciousness. So mastery in the 3D world has been described as having a master over yourself, and it takes about 10,000 hours of practice to be a master of anything. We do not master ourselves and are done. Remember, we are always expanding. Therefore, we are always on the spiritual leadership is always, the job is always about mastering the moment, which means you are always in practice. So your life begins and ends as a moment to moment practice in self-mastery and self-awareness. Self-mastery is the only way we can lead and influence others, officially, truthfully, genuinely, right? We have a lot of leaders in the world who have not mastered themselves, and it's pretty darn obvious, right? Therefore, we've got experience. We have our perception of what it looks like when one tries to lead without having mastered themselves. It's a joke. We are the spiritual leaders that know thyself, and we lead and influence others in a source connected way. The only when we can lead and influence others is when we can create a new culture of peace. What do some of the greatest leaders we know in our world do? They create a culture. They create a culture in their organizations. They create cultures in their families. A new culture of peace is pretty appetizing to this spirit here. That is why I am leading you in this, to like presenting you with who you are, and then presenting you with an invitation to go even further into who you are, so we can create a culture of peace in this world. And you are one that says that's possible. Because if you are sitting there vehemently saying, this is just some airy fairy crap and people have been saying this for years, then you're not mastered yet. And that's not a judgment, because there are those on this planet, walking this planet in physical feet, who have been born to be here and have the vision at this time of transformation. We know this vision is coming into fruition now. This is the time in the 26,000 year cycle that we just happen to be here on this planet for, in order for a new culture of peace to be born, nurtured, and created. It's already been born. We're asking for more people to step up and nurture a new culture of peace. You know if it's you, because you're feeling it and you can already see it. You know it. I know it. So I'm just assembling the people who see it too. Lastly, you lead yourself inward, express yourself outward. You lead others naturally. You lead a revolution of peace. You influence the world's expression of peace. That is a self aware and mastered spiritual leader. So it distills down to this: being one who holds higher consciousness in connection, thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and actions. Spiritual leadership is that. That is who you are. And if you are close enough to your soul to resonate with being of a peaceful and higher intelligence, you are the spiritual leadership that is being called forth now. It's just what's happening. That's what this presentation is for, is to ask you. Spiritual leadership is not about degrees. It's not about paperwork. It is about the being of peace. And if you are either there or working your way towards being a higher being of peace, you are on your way to mastering spiritual leadership and higher consciousness in a world that is being created, and you're being asked to step into that role. Let's look at some archetypes. I love tarot cards. I use cards for my supernal channel sessions. And here's what I love about it, because the tarot is a reflection of the hero's journey. And the first 21 cards, 21 cards is all about the archetypes, the different phases you go through as one who is awakening, one who is expanding in consciousness. You go through the teacher phase. You are a natural teacher, recognizing you do not know everything and you never will in physical form, yet teaching through experiential living, learning from failures, mistakes, and mishaps, and holding a higher consciousness of peace through all experiences of life. And you humbly share your experience to allow students, those people who are magnetized to you, that are drawn to you, that are influenced by you, to learn the lessons through your story. That is what the higher intelligence of a teacher is: leading and modeling students through experiential living. You're also the nurturer. The Empress is the nurturer of the archetypal leadership. The nurturer extends compassion without expectation or strings attached. You can give of yourself, your time, talents, and energy, and you don't need to be recognized for it. You don't have to tell everyone on social media the good deed that you did. You just give it because it's required at that time. You're being one with God, universe, spirit. You're being loving and being present simply to listen without judgment or necessarily offering advice until you're asked. You are the High Priestess. There's an archetype, there's an aspect of you that acts, is, and flows, allows the High Priestess to flow through you. She is the storyteller of wisdom. She uses stories and parables to teach rather than telling someone how to act. Didn't Jesus do that? He spoke in parables. He was one of the, the ancient mystics that we were made in the image and likeness of. Jesus wasn't saying, honor me and just worship me. He was saying, you are me, I am you, we are all one. And he spoke through parables. You speak directly to the soul of people, not the mental aspects of a person or a group, and you know when to speak the truth, and you also allow for the highest good to unfold by allowing the lesson to unfold. There's a very subtle line between I'm going to try to teach this lesson through a story, or I'm going to allow someone to live their lesson, because it's sometimes better for them to learn it through experience than try to hear it. You just simply hold space for people to walk their own path. The Hermit. You find and prioritize spiritual solitude to go about your inner work. allowing others to see your consciousness and light in action. You teach and influence by continuously doing the work to expand, grow, and reach higher levels of spiritual consciousness. That is what the hermit does. They go within, seek solitude, to know thyself, to grow even in deeper connection with themselves and with source. And they teach that by doing it. They are not talkers, they are beers. They are the beers and the doers that come together to bring their being and doing into a virtuous balance of living as a spiritual leader. You are the magician, right? Mystics were known to be magicians. They could just make things appear and happen because they were in the flow and the connection with source. The magician is in constant connection with your supernal channel, your cosmic connection to source. You're being a channel for divine mind to express through you. You are an open channel of your creativity, being in full service to your divine calling as a spiritual leader and speaking from your soul, the I am presence that is you, to the I am presence of another. Remember, you speak to people's souls, not their mental capability, being a conduit for divine purpose and growth. The magician is the part of you that grounds the spiritual aspect down into physical form, and you go into full service of your divine calling, which is to be a spiritual leader if you're still here. A last archetype is the fool. The fool is being a free and clear spirit. A free spirit. You are free of divine expression, allowing yourself to be in perfect balance, peace, and alignment with source consciousness. You're curious, innocent, and pure, living life without fears, limits, or boundaries of thought. That's because you go for it. The fool goes for it knowing that any mistake, anytime he or she may fall on their face, it's an opportunity to say, that didn't work. What did I learn? And how can I grow from that? See the rose in the fool's hand? A rose symbolizes consciousness, the blooming of consciousness. The fool is always in a virtuous spot of curiosity, of innocence, of excitement for life, of a respect for life, an expectation that life is open and expansive. You live in the freedom of light, love, and no reservations from the outer world, purging the pesky barking of the lower consciousness of mind, or the lower world, the lower realms, from those who aren't yet seeing their own spiritual leader within. They may still be in judgment, and they will bark at you about, coming back to earth and stop being so free spirited, right? There will be the underworld that will attempt to pull you back down and take your freedom away. But spiritual leaders are the courageous and the bold ones that claim their sovereign and free spirit and their their right to expand for the good of all. Humbleness of the spiritual leader. You're not here to fix anyone or awaken anyone. You're just here to model things, model how to be. You know that everyone needs support and deserves support, no matter who they are, where they come from, how much of a thorn in your side they are. Man, those are the people that need your support when they ask for it. You are humble and you are there. You're accepting that everyone is on a different part of their spiritual journey and letting go of judgment for anyone who may not understand the world of evolution and consciousness yet. You might say that they're still asleep. They are still on a different part of the spiritual journey because at one point you were asleep too. And now that you have risen into the higher realms of spiritual leadership, you humbly have compassion and empathy for those who may not yet see the true self of who they are. You know that no matter where you are in your spiritual journey, you have the capacity to serve as a leader. No matter where you are, there are always those who are just a little bit behind you on the pathway where you can say, go, this is how I did it. I stepped over that and moved around that. And you tell your stories and parables and share your journey with those that are just a little bit behind you. And you only share constructively. You don't degrade or judge others. You never share in a way that lowers another's level of emotional being, which means you don't lower your construct, your feedback in a way that makes people feel worse. You remember you are always a work in progress. So you don't know everything, and you never will, so don't claim that you do. Spiritual leaders don't do that. And you realize and are humble enough to make mistakes. And when you do, you humble yourself to learn the lesson and make amends where necessary. You are always a work in progress. Okay? You are not a guru. There is not one guru. Buddha wasn't a guru. Jesus wasn't a guru. They never said they were a guru. People have projected their own beliefs on these people who are named gurus because they see the power, they see the archetype of this person and don't see it in themselves, so they think there's something special about these gurus outside of themselves. They just haven't seen their own inner strength, power, courage, amazingness yet. That is for you to model, and that is for you to find. You are not a guru, no one else is, and you are the simple, unique expression of Source. So let's check in. Do these attributes sound familiar to you? Do these words resonate with something deeper within you that's being called forth? Are you ready to step into your role as a fully sustained, networked, connected, and world-changing spiritual leader of peace? Oh my God, does that make you nervous? It doesn't mean you have to always be on stage and on YouTube. You don't have to do all of the outward expression. You just have to be that which is peace, that which is grounded in peace. You just have to be that being, that human, that spiritual being rooted in peace and love, empathy, and with the vision and intention of making the world a better place. And it starts with your world first. Can you be that? Does that sound like a world you want to live in? Starting with yourself, just being at peace. You're a spiritual leader. If you're still here, you're that. Are you ready to be peace and present it wherever you go? That's what's being asked of you right now. That is what you're being invited into. Are you ready to just be peace and present it wherever you go? If you resonate with what you've heard here and are ready to answer the call to become the spiritual leader you are meant to be, you are invited to join others like you. Storehouse Social is a global community restoring the spiritual leadership and the light of peace in the world. Leadership of Storehouse Social works, trains, and is directed by the Galactic Peace Initiative. Yes, it exists. The Galactic Peace Initiative is an underground organization responsible for the strategic organization and placement of ministers of peace, just like you, around the world to bring balance and peace to humanity in times of disharmony. We are there. The GPI, the Galactic Peace Initiative, is asking for a grand rising of spiritual leadership at this point in time, this very point in time, right now, as I point, this time, to neutralize the recalcitrant souls that have designed our upside down world to be material based, spiritually voided expression of life. It's time for the pole shift of spiritual consciousness to be activated, and it takes leaders like you to choose to say yes. Spiritual leaders ignite that pole shift, and the time is now. The new leadership stepping up now will organize into a group setting to practice the presence of peace, support each other's missions of peace, and network with other spiritual leaders globally for the highest good of all of humanity. This then forms an energetic transformer of consciousness, resonating at the frequency of peace, and immediately creates a hub of power that extends through the energetic grid of the planet. Okay? The Galactic Peace Initiative has directed the co-creation of Storehouse Social for this very purpose, to be the hub. By joining as a spiritual leader in Storehouse Social, you become a part of a deliberate attempt to expand a wave of spiritual consciousness through the planet, and you're asked to be all of the qualities discussed here on this presentation to hold space for the greatest evolution of consciousness this planet has ever experienced. This is not some lots of fluffy words. This is what is happening. The greatest evolution of consciousness is being deliberately triggered, ignited through the consciousness of our spiritual leaders who come together to hold this intention to rise up into higher consciousness and bring our entire planet with us. This is the place. Storehouse Social is the place for those ready to expand their knowledge, support, practice, and connection to the peaceful world of spirituality and mysticism. It's for those who feel the call to work directly with the Galactic Peace Initiative and to be a spiritual leader rooted in peace, ready to influence their own world with the principles, actions, thoughts, and beliefs that promote a more peaceful world. Are you that? We have three within Storehouse Social. We have three affordable ways to join us. One's even free, and one is being made ready to give back financially to those who step up and to be a part of the pioneers of consciousness, polarizing. We're finding our true north, our spiritual north, polarizing ourselves to a more abundant, sustainable, and peaceful expression of our world. Are you ready to be that? I am. I've already said yes because I have co-created the Storehouse Social platform, community, and soon to be studio. We will have Storehouse Studios as well. Dragonfly Studios is being birthed now, and the studio is going to be found within Storehouse Social. It is being built into a hub as we speak, and I am co-creating that hub with the Galactic Peace Initiative. And we are recruiting for spiritual leaders now. And it doesn't mean you have to go sell anything. You don't have to keep an inventory. You simply bring your presence into the storehouse, and you can do that on your couch, on your land, at the beach. You can do it in the bathtub. You can do wherever you tune into peace. That is where you are part of the hub of the Storehouse Social. This is what it looks like, our online communal center. Storehouse Social is restoring spiritual leadership and the light of peace in the world. There's the link to join us in the community. You can join at any level that you like. Again, the top tier level, the Pioneer Circle, that is working its way into a way to sustain those who step into spiritual leadership and invite others into Storehouse Social and into this deliberate attempt to create a hub, a transformational hub of consciousness. That's what Storehouse Social is. This is just the name, the umbrella of it, but those who step in are the heartbeat of it. They are the presence. They are the consciousness of Storehouse Social. And I believe if you are still here, you are of a like consciousness, and your presence is required. You are invited to come in and be the spiritual leader that you are. Thank you for being here at this time. I'm not just talking about this moment. I'm talking about this massive 26,000 year moment of time. Your presence is greatly needed, sweet soul. That's why you're here, and that's why you're being asked and invited on this presentation. This presentation has been inspired and adapted by a Rosicrucian presentation by Leo Adams. So I want to give him credit because some of the bullet points I kind of morphed them into my own words, but the inspiration came from it. It was an incredible presentation, and it just solidified what we are here to be, do, and have, and that is peace. Thanks for being here, y'all. I'll see you over in our community hangout room in Storehouse Social. The little living room is what I call it. That's where we gather in order for us to converse. And we will have different, a growing group of different rooms that you can move into and practice being a source of peace. Thanks so much. Mwah. Take care.